You don't need to think. You don't even need to listen closely. Just let the words pass through you. Like wind through an open field. There's nothing to do. Just be. Now. Quietly. Without trying to answer. Consider this. If you are not your thoughts, if you are not your memories, if you are not your body or your story or your name, then what are you? We spend our entire lives wrapped in identity, woven together by beliefs, opinions, dreams, fears. A self-story that stretches from past to future, giving us shape. But who is writing that story? And more importantly, who is watching it unfold? Close your eyes, if they aren't already, and imagine this. You are sitting in a quiet theater. Before you on the screen is your life. Every moment, every conversation, every triumph, every mistake, it plays out in vivid detail. And you are watching. But then something subtle happens. You begin to notice that the watcher doesn't change. The body on the screen ages. The personality shifts. But the one watching, the quiet presence behind the eyes, remains still, silent, unmoved. Could it be that who you think you are is just the character, and who you actually are is the awareness that sees it all? Let's explore that. Start with thought. Most of us believe we are our thoughts. I am the thinker. The voice in my head is me. But if you listen closely, you'll notice something strange. Thoughts arise on their own. You don't choose them. They appear like bubbles, float for a moment, then pop, and yet, you are aware of them. You are the space in which thoughts come and go. So if you can observe your thoughts, then you can't be them. Because the observer and the observed are not the same. Now try the same with time. We live our lives inside clocks, rushing from moment to moment, always haunted by the past, or anxious about the future. But time, as we experience it, is not a constant. Neuroscience shows that our perception of time changes, depending on mood, focus, and memory. Sometimes a minute feels like an hour. Sometimes a week vanishes in a blink. But underneath all those shifting perceptions, awareness remains constant. The now doesn't move, only the mind moves. Time is like the movie reel. But you are the light projecting the film, unmoving, ever present. And what about form? Your body, your face, your voice. These are all forms, but they change. Cells die. Skin ages. The body you had at 5 is not the one you have now. Even your emotions and preferences evolve. So which version is you? Or are all versions just appearances, like waves on the ocean? You are not the wave. You are the ocean itself, the space in which all forms rise and fall. And when you begin to loosen your grip on identity, when you stop clinging to thought, time, and form, what's left? Stillness, spaciousness, presence. Not a blank nothing, but a living silent awareness that needs no definition, that watches without judgment, that simply is. And that is perhaps the most profound shift a human being can make, to stop believing in the story of self, and to rest as the awareness behind the story. This doesn't mean rejecting your life, or personality. It doesn't mean becoming passive or detached. It means seeing clearly that the surface of your life is not the whole of your being. You are not the clouds. You are the sky. You are not the ripples. You are the water. And when you realize this, not as an idea but as a living truth, you become free. Not free in the sense of escape, but free in the sense of resting fully, peacefully, in what you already are, unchanging, unbound, ever present. This truth has been whispered across centuries, by mystics, sages, and philosophers. The Buddha pointed to it when he said, "There is the unborn, the uncreated, the unformed." The Advaita masters of India pointed to it when they said, "You are not the body, you are not the mind, you are that which is aware." And today, in a world full of noise and identity and speed, this truth is more needed than ever, because beneath the chaos, there is something simple, still, silent, and that is you. Not the person, not the name, not the dream of becoming. Just this breath, this being. Take a moment now to feel into that. Drop the search, let go of the doing, even let go of the idea that there's something to let go of, and just be. Notice that everything else can fall away, and still, you remain. You. As this quiet presence. You. As this open field. No labels, no limits, just space. And into this space, all of life flows. Thoughts may rise. Let them. Emotions may pass through. Let them. But you stay as the awareness. That is the truth that waits in every moment. The home you never left. So as you rest here now, ask yourself, not to answer, but to listen. If I am not my thoughts, not my body, not even time, then what am I? What has always been here, watching it all? Everything you think of as the world is being filtered through your senses, processed by your brain, translated into experience. So, where is it, really? Not out there, but in here. The sights you see exist in your visual cortex. The sounds, in your auditory cortex. The sensations, in a swirling network of neurons and electrical pulses. The world as you know it is a mental model, a best guess created from limited data, and yet, it feels real. It feels solid. So we believe in it. We walk through it, name it, measure it. But take that away, strip away the senses, the mental processing, the context, and the world as you know it dissolves. So here's the unsettling question. If everything you experience is inside your mind, then what exists outside of it? Is there even an outside? Let's begin with what neuroscience tells us. Your brain doesn't perceive the world directly. It builds simulations based on sensory input. You never actually see the world. You see your brain's interpretation of it. Color, it's a mental construction. Sound, vibrations translated into experience. Even time is a perceptual illusion. Studies show that your brain can shift your perception of time based on emotional states or memory density. Time stretches or contracts, not because the world is changing, but because your experience is. So again we ask, what's really out there? Philosophers have grappled with this for centuries. In the 18th century, Immanuel Kant said we can never know the world as it is, only as it appears to us. He called this the phenomenal world. The noumenal world, what's actually out there, is forever beyond our reach. Then came George Berkeley, who proposed something more radical, that the material world doesn't exist independently at all, that to be is to be perceived. In other words, existence and awareness are inseparable. No perception, no world. If a tree falls in a forest, and no one hears it, not only does it not make a sound, it may not even exist at all. Now this idea seems absurd, until you look at quantum physics. At the quantum level, particles don't have definite properties until they're observed. They exist in superpositions, clouds of probabilities, until attention collapses them into a reality. Observation brings the world into being, as if the universe is waiting for a mind to look. And this leads to an even deeper thought. Maybe out there and in here aren't separate at all. Maybe consciousness isn't inside your head. Maybe the head, your body, your world is inside consciousness. Imagine a dream. In the dream you see a world, feel a body, hear sounds. But where is it all happening? Not in your bedroom, not in space. It's happening within you, the dreamer. And what if waking life is the same? Not a literal dream, perhaps, but a projection, a rendering of reality occurring within awareness itself. Not your awareness, as in something you own, but the field of awareness that is being you. Consciousness as the ground of reality, not matter. Matter, then, is just a ripple in the sea of mind. This is not just spiritual poetry. It's being explored in science. Some physicists and philosophers now propose panpsychism, the idea that consciousness is a fundamental feature of the universe, like space or gravity. Others suggest that reality is a simulation, a kind of dream running on some deeper level of existence. And even that simulation would still need awareness to be experienced. So again we return to the same still point. What exists outside the mind? Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. Maybe outside is just another illusion created by a mind that dreams in opposites. And maybe, just maybe, what you call the world is the unfolding of your own being, reflecting itself in infinite forms. The trees, the stars, the people, the thoughts, the questions, all of it shimmering inside the mirror of awareness, not separate from you, but arising as you. There's an old Zen koan, who is the one dreaming the world? You may search forever for an answer, or you may stop and simply see that there is no world outside awareness, and no awareness apart from the world. One dreaming unity, pretending to be two. So now, as you lie here, resting deeper into the mystery, ask yourself gently, not to solve but to wonder, where does the world go when I stop imagining it, and who am I? if everything I see is inside me? These are not questions to be answered. They are doorways to silence. Let them open, and let yourself fall through, because the deeper you fall, the wider you become. And the wider you become, the more you dissolve into what you truly are. Not a person inside a world, but the world, dreaming a person. Let your breath soften. Feel your body sink deeper into stillness. You're not in a rush. You're not going anywhere. You're already here. And yet, something inside you stirs with the question, if this life is a dream, if I am awareness itself, simply imagining this story, then why? Why would infinite consciousness pretend to be me? Why would something so vast, so timeless, so unknowable, choose to become something so small, so fragile, so lost? Let's explore that, not as a theory, but as a story. One whispered through the ages, found in mystical texts, ancient scriptures, and deep contemplative experience. Imagine this. There is only one thing in existence. Call it what you like. God, Source, the infinite, pure awareness. It doesn't really matter. This being has no limits, no form, no other, nothing outside itself. It is pure presence, pure isness, but with nothing to contrast against. It cannot know itself. It simply is. No beginning, no end, no questions, no separation. Just an endless, boundless field of awareness. And then, something stirs. A question perhaps, not in words, but an impulse. What would it be like, to forget, to not know everything, to play, to feel the thrill of duality, of limitation, of becoming? And so, from its own infinite nature, it creates illusion, a veil, a forgetting. It splits itself, not truly, but seemingly, into trillions of fragments, each one believing itself to be separate, each one waking up in a body, each one asking, who am I? And one of those is you. You are not in the universe. You are the universe, dreaming itself as a person, a name, a face, a life. Just for the joy and the sorrow of it, you experience birth, confusion, curiosity, pain, wonder, beauty, love, death, all of it, so that consciousness can experience itself through contrast. To know hot, you must also know cold. To feel joy, you must also feel loss. To recognize light, you must pass through darkness. This is not punishment. It is the price, and the gift of knowing. Because what is knowing, without forgetting? What is love, without separation? What is awakening, without first falling asleep? And so, infinite awareness becomes you, pretending. But the game was never meant to be cruel. It was meant to be real. So real that you'd forget it was a game. That's how deep the illusion had to go. That's how strong the veil had to be. Because only in forgetting, completely, can the rediscovery feel like grace. Only in breaking can wholeness shine. And yet, within you, something remembers. A spark, a whisper, a subtle knowing that you are more than your thoughts, your roles, your story. That you are the dreaming awareness behind it all. You've always been that, and you always will be. But here, in this lifetime, you get to play the part, to experience what it's like to be a self, to walk through time, to fear, to fall in love, to be confused, to wonder, to lose, to search, and maybe, to remember. The ancient sages say that awakening is not about becoming something new. It's about remembering what you already are, and always were. That even your longing to wake up is planted by the very thing that forgot. The seeker and the sought are the same. So why would infinite consciousness pretend to be you? To explore, to express, to create, to fall apart, to come back together, to dance. It's not about escape. It's not about transcendence. It's about being fully here, fully present, even in the forgetting, even in the pain, because even that is part of the dance. You, the dreamer, chose this mask, not to suffer, but to feel, to know, to be. So let yourself feel the paradox. You are infinite and finite. You are everything, and this one thing. You are the ocean, and the drop. You are awareness itself, pretending to be someone falling asleep to a YouTube video. And it's beautiful, perfect, in its imperfection. This remembering need not be loud. It can be soft, quiet, gentle, like waking up slowly, at sunrise. Let it come as it does. There's no rush. You were never really lost. You were only dreaming. We assume waking life is more real than dreams. That when we're awake, The world is solid, stable, grounded. But how do you know this isn't still a dream? In your dreams, you don't know you're dreaming until you do. And in that moment of realization, everything changes. The world remains. The dream continues. But something awakens within it. Lucid dreaming. But what if waking life could be the same? What if the reality you call waking is just another layer of the dream? René Descartes, the French philosopher, asked this very question in the 1600s. He wondered, what can I know for certain? Can I trust my senses, my memories, my experience? His answer was radical. I think, therefore I am. He couldn't prove the world existed, but he knew there was something doing the thinking, some awareness observing the dream, even if the dream was all there was. Modern neuroscience hasn't closed the case. In fact, it's complicated it. Scientists still don't know exactly what consciousness is, or how it arises. What they do know is that your brain is locked inside a dark skull. It doesn't see light. It doesn't hear sound. It only receives electrical signals and interprets them. So everything you experience, sight, sound, touch, even time, is a simulation created inside your mind. You're not experiencing the world as it is. You're experiencing a mental model, a best guess, and those guesses can be wrong. Think of optical illusions, hallucinations, false memories, dreams so vivid you believed in them completely. What if this is just the most persistent dream of all? It's not just philosophy. Quantum physics hints at something stranger. Particles don't have definite properties until they're observed. Reality, at the smallest scale, seems to depend on observation, as if consciousness helps shape the world it sees. So again, we ask what is real, and who's watching? Eastern traditions have explored this for thousands of years. Hindu philosophy speaks of the world as Maya, illusion. Not illusion as in fake, but illusion in the sense that what you perceive is not the ultimate reality. They say the universe is a cosmic dream, playing itself out in infinite forms, and the one dreaming it is not separate from you. You are the dreamer dreaming itself into a body, into a name, into a story. When the dream ends, the dreamer does not die. The dreamer simply awakens. Buddhism goes further. It says there is no permanent self, only fleeting sensations, perceptions, thoughts, and that clinging to this illusion of reality creates suffering. But by seeing through the illusion, by waking up within the dream, you find freedom. So what would it mean to wake up? You don't have to disappear. You don't have to stop living your life. But you might begin to loosen your grip, to stop taking the story so seriously, to see the shimmering quality of reality, the way everything arises and passes like clouds in a sky. Try this now. Let your mind rest. Notice the sensations of your body, without labeling them. Notice the thoughts passing through, without clinging. Notice the sounds, the feelings, the breath. Let it all unfold, like scenes in a dream. And know you are the awareness in which all of this arises. You are not the dream. You are the dreaming. And in this space, anything can appear. A world, a memory, a question, a lifetime. And then, it fades. Just like every dream you've ever had. Some traditions say this life is a dream within a dream. That when you die, you awaken, not into another body, but into a deeper truth, a clearer reality, a wider self. Or, perhaps there is no awakening. Perhaps this moment is the awakening. Right now, right here. When you notice that what you took to be solid is soft. That what you thought was real is rippling with mystery. That you are not what you thought you were. You are the space behind the thought, the I behind the dream. And in that realization, everything softens. There is no need to hold on, no need to understand, no need to resist. You are dreaming, and aware that you are dreaming. And that awareness is the most real thing of all. So now, as you drift further into the stillness, let this question echo gently through you. If this is a dream, and you are the dreamer, then why are you dreaming this? What is the purpose of forgetting what you truly are? Right now it feels like you're here by choice. You chose to press play, to listen, to lie down, to keep going. And in a way, that feels empowering. You are the agent of your own life. But, what if that feeling of agency is just that, a feeling? Let's look more closely. The belief in free will is one of the most intuitive assumptions we make. It forms the foundation of our societies, our moral codes, our sense of identity. We praise or blame based on the idea that people choose their actions, that you choose yours. But what if you don't? Neurologist Benjamin Libet conducted an experiment in the 1980s that sent shockwaves through both science and philosophy. He asked participants to flex their wrist whenever they felt like it, while he recorded their brain activity. What he found was staggering. The brain's readiness potential, electrical activity that prepares for movement, fired before the participants consciously decided to act, by about 300 milliseconds. In simple terms, your brain makes the decision before you become aware of it. Other studies confirmed this. Some even showed neural patterns predicting decisions up to 7 seconds before people reported choosing. It's as if your conscious self is simply observing the decision after the fact, like watching a broadcast with a slight delay. But if that's true, who or what is actually making the choice? Maybe your choices are being made by prior causes, by your genetics, your conditioning, your environment, your past experiences. Maybe the decision to listen to this video was inevitable, given the exact state of your brain, body, and history. And maybe your sense of agency is just your brain's clever way of stitching together a story after the fact. This is unsettling, but it also makes sense. You don't choose your desires. You don't choose your thoughts. You don't choose what you want, or why you want it. Even your reasons are just thoughts arising in awareness. And yet, you feel like you choose. Is it just an illusion? Some scientists, like Sam Harris, argue that free will is not only false but incoherent, that if we look closely, we find no chooser behind the choices, just causes, cascading back in time. And yet others say, wait, even if our choices are influenced, does that mean we have no freedom? Maybe free will isn't about total independence from causes. Maybe it's about being conscious of them, being aware. If you're acting out of compulsion, you're not free. But if you can see your urges, your triggers, your patterns, if you can pause and reflect, you create space, not for an uncaused you to intervene, but for awareness to allow new possibilities. In this view, freedom isn't about control, it's about clarity. Like being in a river, you can't stop the current, but you can learn to navigate, to see where you're going, to soften your grip. This aligns with ancient traditions too. Buddhists speak of dependent origination, that all things arise from conditions, that nothing is truly separate, including your decisions. They say liberation comes not from controlling your thoughts, but from realizing you are not your thoughts. That includes the thought, I decided. So, are you really making choices? Or are you simply watching a movie of choices unfold? You can test it for yourself. Try this. Decide to lift your hand. Watch closely. Does the thought to lift arise from nowhere? Or did you choose it? Now ask, did you choose to choose it? And did you choose that? Trace it back, and you find no origin point, just thoughts, arising, like clouds in a sky you didn't create. And yet, here they are. Here you are. Some say this realization leads to nihilism, that if we have no free will, then nothing matters. But maybe it's the opposite. If no one is truly to blame, maybe compassion becomes easier. If you couldn't help but act how you did, maybe forgiveness becomes possible. And if you are not the thinker of your thoughts, maybe there is nothing to defend, nothing to prove, only this moment, watching itself unfold. Take a breath, let go of the need to control. You never really had it. And yet, the play continues. Choices appear, actions unfold, life dances on, and you, the witness, rest at the center of it all. Or perhaps, there is no center, no self, no will, only the mysterious unfolding of being. So as you drift deeper now, consider this. If you are not the thinker, not the doer, not the self, then who is dreaming all of this? And can a dream wake itself up? Notice the voice in your head. The one that says, I'm listening. The one that reacts, judges, remembers. That voice feels like you. But, what is the self really? Is it the voice, the thoughts, the memories, the body, or is it something deeper? Let's begin gently. When you were 5, you thought of yourself as a child. Fragile, curious, filled with wonder. At 20 you were different. More sure, maybe more afraid, maybe more proud. Now, perhaps, you feel wiser, or more confused. But either way, you're still you, right? But here's the mystery. The self keeps changing. Your memories shift, your preferences evolve, even your body. Every atom is replaced over time, and yet something remains. Or does it? Is there a continuous I running through the story? Or is that just a story? Many scientists and philosophers now believe the self is not a thing at all. It's a process, a simulation your brain runs to keep track of experiences, like a map of who you think you are. This model includes your name, your history, your desires, your fears, collected into a tidy narrative, a character, a protagonist. But like any good story, it's made up. Just information, organized and replayed. Neuroscience supports this. There's no center in the brain where the self lives. No cockpit with a little person pushing buttons. Instead, there are networks, perceptions firing, memories activating, judgments forming. And from this activity, a pattern emerges. A sense of me. But look closer. Right now, thoughts are appearing. Sensations are arising. Emotions flicker, like shadows on a wall. But who or what is watching? That watcher isn't a thought. It's not an emotion. It's not a memory. It's awareness. Silent, still, unchanging. You don't create it. You are it. But the illusion is strong. Your mind says, this is me thinking. This is me feeling. And in a way that's true. On a functional level, the self helps you navigate the world. It organizes reality into a story. But it's a mask, a useful fiction. Buddhist traditions call this the illusion of selfhood, anatta. They say that suffering comes from clinging to this illusion. From believing the voice in your head is you. From defending it, feeding it, running from threats to it. But when you see through it, there's a strange kind of freedom. You no longer have to protect something that isn't truly there. You can still play the role, but without fear. Like lucid dreaming. In fact, many spiritual traditions, East and West, say enlightenment is nothing more than realizing you are not the self. You are the screen the movie plays on. Not the movie. You are the sky. Thoughts and emotions are just passing clouds. Even modern psychology hints at this. When people undergo ego dissolution, through meditation, psychedelics, or trauma, they often describe the same thing. The boundaries of me dissolve. Time stretches. Everything feels connected. And oddly, in losing themselves, they feel more real, more alive. It's terrifying at first, to let go of the voice that says I, me, mine. But then, peace, spaciousness, silence. Try this now. Notice a thought arise. Maybe it's about this sentence. Maybe it's about something else. Now ask yourself, did you create that thought? Or did it just appear? Now try to find the thinker. The one behind the thought. Search, gently. Look behind the eyes, between the ears, inside the chest. Do you find someone there? Or just more sensations? More thoughts about looking? There is no one behind the curtain. Just experience, arising in awareness. So the question returns, if the self is an illusion, who's listening? Not the character, not the ego, not the name, or the story, or the thoughts, just awareness, listening, without a listener, being, without a being. And yet, here you are, experiencing this moment, not as a person, not as a role, but as pure witnessing. No past, no future, just this. That realization can be unsettling, or liberating. Like a dream waking itself up. You don't have to figure it out, just let it unfold. Let the you loosen, like steam rising from a cup. No need to grip, no need to understand. Just watch. Be the silence behind the words. Be the stillness inside the breath. Because what you truly are has no shape, no age, no boundary. It doesn't begin with birth. It doesn't end with death. It simply is. Always has been. Always will be. Take a moment to rest there. In that spacious awareness. Nothing to do. Nothing to become. Nothing to fear. You are not your thoughts. You are not your roles. You are the awareness in which all of that appears and disappears. And that awareness cannot be harmed. It was never born. It never ends. So sleep now, if you wish, or float in this stillness a little longer. The illusion of self has loosened. Death. The one certainty, and yet the greatest unknown. As you lay here, breath slowing, thoughts softening, we turn toward the most forbidden question of all. What happens when we die? Not in theory, not in metaphor, But really, when the body stops, when the brain goes silent, when the story you've been telling yourself as you fades away, does anything remain? For thousands of years, humans have tried to answer this. Every culture, every philosophy, every spiritual tradition, each with its own metaphor for the great transition: heaven, rebirth, reunion, release, void. But what does science say? Let's start there. From a biological standpoint, death is the end of organized functioning. The cells stop communicating. The brain ceases electrical activity. Consciousness, as far as we can measure, vanishes. The lights go out. But here's the catch. We don't actually know how consciousness arises in the first place, which means we don't really know where it goes. Some neuroscientists suggest that consciousness is like a flame, emerging from the interaction of brain components. Snuff out the brain, and the flame is gone. But others argue that consciousness might not be produced by the brain at all, but transmitted through it, like a radio signal picked up by a receiver. If that's true, then death might be like the radio breaking. But the signal, whatever it is, still broadcasting somewhere beyond our detection. It sounds mystical, but it's not purely fantasy. Some of the world's most respected physicists, like Sir Roger Penrose, have explored this possibility through theories involving quantum processes in the brain, where consciousness might exist in a more fundamental fabric of reality, beyond our current models. It's controversial, but it opens a door. And then there are the stories, thousands upon thousands of near-death experiences, where people flatlined, clinically dead, and returned with vivid memories, descriptions of floating above their bodies, of light, of overwhelming peace, of a kind of clarity beyond words. Are they hallucinations, chemical illusions of a dying brain? Possibly. But some contain verified details, events that happened while the person was unconscious, or even brain dead, and no one really knows how. Some researchers take these accounts seriously, not as proof, but as clues that death might not be the end of consciousness. Or maybe, consciousness was never in the body to begin with. Maybe we've been looking in the wrong direction. Because when you fall asleep, your sense of self disappears, but something remains. You still are, even without identity. Could death be similar? A letting go of the narrative, a dissolving of the form, but not necessarily the end of awareness. Think about this. Have you ever experienced the absence of experience? Even when you say you were unconscious, or asleep without dreams, there's no memory of nothing, because nothing is not something that can be known. And yet, you wake up. The lights come back on. So how can you be sure they won't again? Perhaps what we call death is just the ending of a chapter, not the book. Or maybe it's a return, like waking from a dream you forgot you were having. Some traditions speak of death not as annihilation, but as liberation, a return to source, to pure being, to awareness without a center. They say the ego dies, the body dies, but what you truly are, never born, never ending, remains. Is that true? We don't know. But ask yourself this: if you are only your body and your brain, then what is it that's aware of the body? What is it that sees thoughts arise and pass? You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness in which they appear. And awareness at one has no edge. It can't be seen. It can't be touched. It can't be measured. But it is the one thing you are absolutely certain of. The one thing that never leaves. So maybe death is not the end. Maybe it's the dropping of the mask, the loosening of the story. And what remains is what has always been. Still, quiet, watching. Take a moment to rest there, in that space beyond fear, beyond time, beyond identity. Feel the silence beneath this sentence. The awareness that receives every sound. That doesn't begin or end, but simply is. That's not a belief. It's not a theory. It's your direct experience. And in that space, is there any death? Or only change? Like waves rising and falling on the surface of the sea. Each one appearing, dissolving, but never separate from the ocean itself. So perhaps death is not darkness, but merging, not an ending, but returning. And maybe the real illusion is that we were ever separate at all. Let this idea cradle you. Let it soften your breath. Let it loosen your grip. You are not falling away from life. You are falling deeper into it. What is this? This thing we call reality. Is it solid? Is it objective? Is it even real in the way we think it is? As you sink further into calm, eyes closed, mind open, allow this question to unfold like mist. What is this world made of? Your body? The chair? The stars? At first glance, the answer seems simple: matter. Atoms, particles, energy, vibrating in space. We're taught that everything is made up of tiny, indivisible bits, like cosmic Lego blocks, clicking together to form people, planets, and thoughts. But the deeper science goes, the weirder things become. Take a chair for instance. Seems solid, right? But zoom in and it's mostly empty space. Atoms are over 99.9999% nothing. The electrons whirling around a nucleus are like planets orbiting a sun, with vast distances in between. What you feel is solid, is just the electromagnetic resistance between your body's electrons and the chair's. In other words, nothing is touching anything. And what about the particles themselves? Quantum physics tells us they're not little balls of stuff, they're probabilities, waves of potential. They don't exist in a fixed way until they're observed. Let that sink in. Before you look, the particle isn't there. It's everywhere it could be. A cloud of possibilities. Only when you measure it, when consciousness interacts, does it decide where to be. So is the universe made of particles, or is it made of probabilities, of questions waiting for observation to become answers? Some physicists go further, suggesting reality isn't made of matter at all, but of information, bits, data, a cosmic code running behind the scenes. Just like pixels on a screen, the universe might be a vast simulation, patterns of on and off, yes and no. But if that's true, who or what is running it? Others propose that reality is not out there at all, but in here, that what you call the external world is a model, constructed inside your brain, a hallucination so detailed, so consistent, and so useful that we call it reality. Colors, not out there, just how your brain interprets light frequencies. Sounds, not in the air, just pressure waves translated into perception. Even time, space, and causality are mental frameworks, ways the brain makes sense of its inputs. This is called the user interface theory of perception. It says we don't see reality as it is, we see what we need to survive. Just like you don't see the code behind your smartphone's screen, you see icons. You tap a photo, not because there's a literal picture in your phone, but because the symbol works. Maybe the physical world is the same. We don't perceive atoms, fields, or space-time itself. We see symbols, a tree, a face, a sunset, and underneath it all, who knows, maybe there's no matter, maybe there's no world, maybe there's only mind. Some traditions have said this for centuries, that consciousness is not in the universe is in consciousness, that reality is not made of stuff, but of knowing, awareness dreaming itself into form. And here's the strange thing. Science is starting to entertain that possibility too. Integrated information theory, a cutting-edge framework in neuroscience, suggests that consciousness might be a fundamental property of the universe, like mass or charge, not something brains produce, but something that is everywhere, just in varying degrees of complexity. Which means reality might not be dead, mechanical stuff. It might be alive, aware, interconnected. If you remove your assumptions, what are you left with? Sensation, experience. You've never touched the external world. You've only ever touched the story your mind tells about it. So what is this reality made of? Energy? Information? Awareness? Maybe all three are the same thing, seen from different angles. Maybe it doesn't matter what it's made of. Maybe the real question is, why does it appear at all? And for whom? Right now, notice that everything you think of as reality is just showing up in your awareness. The sound of this voice, the pressure of the bed, the soft rhythm of your breath. These aren't happening out there. They're happening in here. So maybe the most honest answer to what is reality made of is this: it is made of experience, ever-changing, ever-arising, empty of form, full of presence, and the one constant, you, not the person with a name and a story, but the awareness behind it, the quiet space in which the dance of reality unfolds. Take a moment to rest in that space. No need to figure anything out. Just feel the mystery of being. No solid ground, no final answers, only this eternal unfolding, this strange and beautiful dream. And if reality is this mysterious, what about death? If even the physical world is uncertain, what does it mean to die, to end, or to begin again? Time. We live by it. Chase it. Measure it. Fear it. We watch it slip through our fingers like sand. But what if time, this thing we take for granted, isn't real at all? What if time is just a story, not a physical force, but a psychological trick? As you lie back and the edges of consciousness begin to soften, consider this: every moment you've ever experienced has only happened. Now, the past isn't behind you. It's a memory happening in the present. The future isn't ahead of you. It's an imagination happening now. So where is this so-called time you're in? Try to find it. Not your schedule, not the ticking of the clock, but time itself. You might say, it's moving forward, 1 second then the next. But who decided that? And what if it's not time that's moving, but you? Physicists have long puzzled over this. Einstein shattered our classical understanding of time with his theory of relativity. Time, he showed, is not universal. It's not ticking at the same rate everywhere. It's not even separate from space. Time slows down when you move fast. Time bends near massive objects. In fact, there's no absolute now that everyone shares. Your now, and someone else's now, might not even happen at the same time, if you're far enough apart, or moving differently. Einstein once said, "The distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion." An illusion, that's not philosophy, that's physics. The implications are staggering. If time is relative, then maybe everything that has ever happened, and everything that ever will, already exists, right now, like pages in a book, already written, already there. You're just flipping through them one by one. In some theories of physics, this is called the block universe. In this view, all moments, past, present, and future, are equally real. Time doesn't flow, we do. Our consciousness moves through a frozen landscape of events. If that's true, then your birth, your death, every joy, every sorrow, they're all fixed in the fabric of space-time. It's not that time passes, it's that we pass through time. Take a moment to reflect on that. The sunrise you remember from childhood, it's still out there, in some slice of the block. The last breath you'll take already exists, in a sense, in a future that's as real as this one. Weird? Definitely. But strangely comforting too, because if all time is now, then maybe nothing is truly lost. Not your memories, not the people you've loved, not the moments you've left behind. They're still there, frozen, eternal. But if all of this is true, then why do we experience time at all? Why do we feel this forward pull from before to after, from cause to effect? Some scientists believe it's a result of entropy. Entropy is the measure of disorder in a system. It always increases over time. A glass falls and shatters. It never unshatters. This gives us the arrow of time. But even entropy might be a trick of perspective. Some theories suggest the universe could just as easily run in reverse. The laws of physics don't care about time's direction. It's only our perception, our memory of a past and anticipation of a future, that creates the illusion of a flow. Your brain stores memories of what's already happened, not what's yet to come. So you feel like you're moving through time. But what if you're not moving at all? What if you're standing still? And the illusion of motion is just how awareness experiences change. Think of a film reel. Each frame is still, but when played fast enough, we experience motion. Life may be the same, a series of frozen moments, stitched together by memory and prediction. And this has profound implications, not just for science but for how we live. We spend our lives worrying about the future, regretting the past, planning, anticipating, replaying. But none of that is real. Only this is. This breath, this heartbeat, this flicker of thought. Everything else is a dream. Even the ticking of a clock is just movement, a change in position, interpreted by your brain as a measure of passing time. But clocks don't measure time, they measure change. And you too are just a pattern of changes, thoughts arising and dissolving, sensations coming and going, all happening now, always now. So what happens when we drop the illusion of time? A strange thing occurs. The mind becomes quiet. There's nowhere to be, nothing to reach. You realize you've never truly left this moment. You've just been distracted from it. There's a deep peace here, because the future doesn't need to be controlled, and the past doesn't need to be fixed. They don't even exist, except as shadows in the mind. So let go. Let go of the clock. Let go of the timeline. Let go of the idea that you are racing towards something, or running from something. You are not in time. Time is in you, and it's always been now. Even as you drift toward sleep, time doesn't pass. Only awareness shifts. Only stories appear. You are still here. You've never been anywhere else. If the self is an illusion, then who or what is experiencing the illusion? If you are not the thinker of your thoughts, not the doer of your actions, not even the owner of your memories, then what remains? Who's behind the curtain? Is there anyone or anything there at all? Let's slow down and examine this carefully. In the last segment, we explored the idea that the self, the you that feels separate, consistent, and in control, is a constructed narrative, a convenient fiction, a psychological interface, and yet, something is still here. There is still an experience of being, not necessarily a person, but a presence, a sense of knowing. Even if what's known is empty of self, you are aware that there is no one here, and that awareness is itself undeniable. This is the paradox. The self may be an illusion, but the experience of being is not. You can doubt everything, your name, your past, your beliefs, but you cannot doubt that something is happening, even if it's just this breath, this sensation, this moment. In philosophy, this echoes the insight of René Descartes. I think, therefore I am, but maybe he got it slightly wrong. It's not that you think, and therefore you exist. It's that something is happening, and that something is existence. Even if there's no I at the center, some Eastern traditions express it more clearly. In Advaita Vedanta, they say you are not the body, you are not the mind, you are that which is aware of both. Not a person, not a character in a story, but the silent witness, impersonal, infinite, ever-present. Even when the story of me dissolves, this witnessing remains, not watching from somewhere, but simply watching, being. Can you sense it? That soft, quiet field in which all thoughts appear. It doesn't speak, it doesn't judge, it doesn't even identify. It's just aware. Try not to think about it. Just notice it, right now. The feeling of breath on skin, the hum of the room, the flickering of thought, all of it, appearing within awareness. But awareness itself has no shape, no boundary, no age, no form. It's not yours, it just is. And the beautiful mystery is this: everyone you've ever met, every mind, every animal, every sentient being, has this same awareness shining through them. Not a different awareness, but the same field, filtered through different lenses, colored by different minds, but never divided. You don't have awareness, you are awareness, always have been. Before the story of you began, it was there. Before memory, before name, before language, there was just the experience of being. And when the body dies, when the story ends, perhaps that awareness remains, unshaped, unnamed, unchanged. Some traditions call this the true self, not the ego self, not the personality, but the pure, open being that is aware of all experience, but clings to none. Others call it God, some call it consciousness, some call it the void, but it's not something to believe in, it's something to return to recognize. It was here before the question, and it remains, after the answer fades. And now, maybe you see why the question, who is experiencing this, is so slippery, because it assumes a someone, a self behind the senses. But perhaps experience doesn't need a self. Perhaps it's just experience, happening, freely, without ownership. Just awareness, aware of itself, flowing, changing, resting. You can never truly find the one who is experiencing this moment, because there is no such one. And yet you are this moment, not inside of it, not observing it, but being it. Take a breath, feel into that. This breath isn't happening to someone, it's just happening. This silence isn't being heard by someone, it is just silence, being. The wave is not separate from the ocean. You are not separate from this experience. You are the wave, you are the ocean, you are the flicker of sensation, the rustling of thoughts, the awareness that knows them all. And so when people say wake up, they don't mean become something else. They mean, remember. Remember that you were never the mask, never the name, never the narrative. You are what has always watched, always known, even when it didn't speak. This realization is not an end. It's a doorway, not to knowledge, but to knowing, not to control, but to surrender. Because when there is no self to defend, nothing is left to fear. There is only this presence, peace, awareness itself. So tonight, as sleep comes to carry you deeper into mystery, you don't need to hold on. You don't need to be someone. You don't even need to understand. Just rest as awareness. Let it all pass through you. Let the thoughts rise and fall. Let dreams take shape and dissolve. You are not inside the dream. You are the space in which dreaming happens. Silent, still, free. As your body sinks into stillness and your breath softens, we ask a question so vast, so strange, that it almost slips past language itself. Is the universe conscious? Not just filled with consciousness, not merely the birthplace of minds, but the cosmos itself, this expanding field of stars, gravity, energy, and time. Might it be aware? Let's begin where this question often begins with you. You are conscious. You know what it's like to feel, to perceive, to wonder. Your body is made of atoms, hydrogen, oxygen, carbon. Those atoms came from stars, supernovae, the furnace of dying suns. So in a very literal way, the universe gave rise to your consciousness, and yet, in another way, it became conscious through you. Carl Sagan famously said, "We are a way for the cosmos to know itself." But what if that's not just poetic? What if it's literal? There is a growing conversation among physicists, philosophers, and mystics that the universe may not just contain awareness, but be awareness. This is not a new idea. In fact, it's one of the oldest. In many ancient traditions, the universe and consciousness were never separate. In Vedanta, Brahman is both the material and the awareness of the cosmos. In Taoism, the Tao is not just a force, but a flowing, living intelligence. The West, for a time, separated mind from matter, but now, they may be converging again. Let's explore one path, the panpsychist view. Panpsychism proposes that consciousness is not exclusive to brains or complex organisms. It exists in some form at the most fundamental level. Every particle, every field, every interaction has a tiny shimmer of subjectivity, not thoughts, not emotions, but something like awareness. In this view, when particles form molecules, and molecules form cells, and cells form brains, the sparks of awareness integrate. And when that awareness becomes complex enough, it becomes what you call a mind. But the ingredients were there all along. If this is true, then the universe is not a dead machine accidentally producing consciousness. It is consciousness unfolding itself, a living aware process. Now imagine this. If you scale awareness up, not just in complexity but in size, what do you get? A planet with memory, a galaxy that dreams, a universe that contemplates itself. Some physicists speculate that consciousness and space-time might be linked. Theoretical models, like integrated information theory or orchestrated objective reduction, suggest that consciousness could be a fundamental property of reality, woven into the geometry of space itself. Even black holes, those strange silent voids, may not be lifeless. According to physicist Roger Penrose, the collapse of wave functions within microstructures of space-time might be where consciousness begins. In other words, awareness might not emerge from complexity alone. It might be baked into the structure of the cosmos. But why does this matter? Because if the universe is conscious, even in a primitive or distributed way, everything changes. The stars aren't just burning, they're expressing. The laws of physics aren't just rules, they're behavior. And you are not separate from the universe. You are a node, a perspective, a mirror. When you look up at the night sky, the sky is also looking back, through you. Let's pause here. Feel the weight of that possibility. You are not an alien in the universe. You are of it. You are it. Just as a wave is not separate from the ocean, you are not separate from this cosmic field. And if that field is aware, then every moment of your life is the universe experiencing itself from a unique angle. This doesn't mean you are the whole universe, but it does mean the universe is not whole without you. Your sadness, your dreams, your memories, they're not trivial. They are the universe in miniature echoes of something vast. Let's go deeper. Imagine the Big Bang, not just as a burst of energy, but as the first flicker of awareness, a moment not just of light, but of knowing, a seed. From that seed came matter, space, time, chemistry, life, minds, and from minds, the question, am I alone? What if the universe created beings just so it could ask that question? What if loneliness is the universe reaching toward itself, trying to remember, trying to wake up? That's what some mystics suggest, that enlightenment is not a personal event. it's a cosmic one, a moment when the part remembers the whole. So as you lie here, drifting in the inky stillness of thought, consider this: you are not simply inside the universe, you are what the universe looks like when it becomes aware. And maybe that's the point of it all. Not survival, not control, not progress, but the slow dawning of self-awareness. Stars collapsing, planets cooling, DNA forming, eyes opening, and now this moment, this question: is the universe conscious? You may never have a definitive answer. Science may always fall just short of proving it. But in a quiet way, you already know. You feel it when you stare at the ocean and lose your sense of self. You feel it when you close your eyes and become the breath, the silence, the hum, that presence behind the thoughts, that is not separate from the stars. That is the universe aware, silent, watching. Could consciousness exist without the brain? We're taught to believe that the brain produces consciousness, like a furnace produces heat or a lamp emits light. When the brain shuts down, the light goes out. Awareness stops. Nothing remains. But what if that assumption is incomplete? What if the brain doesn't produce consciousness, but filters it? Let's begin with what we know, or what we think we know. Consciousness is notoriously difficult to define. It's not just awareness of the world, but awareness of being aware. That inner eye, the presence behind your thoughts, the stillness behind your eyes. Despite decades of research, neuroscience has no complete explanation for how subjective experience arises from physical matter. This is known as the hard problem of consciousness, a term coined by philosopher David Chalmers. We can measure brain activity. We can track neural pathways, but no scan has ever revealed how electrical signals become the color red, the taste of coffee, or the ache of love. We observe correlation, but not causation. That opens the door to possibilities, strange ones. Some scientists and philosophers have proposed that maybe consciousness isn't produced by the brain. Maybe it's a fundamental aspect of reality, like space, time, or gravity. In this view, known as panpsychism, consciousness is not rare, it's everywhere. Every particle, every atom, carries some intrinsic quality of awareness. Not human thought, not emotion, just the spark of experience. In this model, your brain doesn't create consciousness, it organizes it. It's like a radio tuning into a signal. Damage the radio, and the sound becomes distorted. But the signal still exists. Could the same be true of you? When your brain stops working, does consciousness disappear, or merely shift? Let's explore this with an analogy. Imagine a television playing a show. The show is vivid. Colors, characters, sound. You smash the TV, and the show disappears. But has the show ceased to exist? Or does it still live, somewhere else, on the broadcast? In the cloud, maybe your brain is a similar receiver, tuning into the field of consciousness. Maybe the you think is local, is actually non-local. There are moments that seem to hint at this. Some near-death experiences report strikingly clear awareness when the brain is inactive, flatlined, no measurable activity. And yet those individuals later describe vivid scenes, emotions, perspectives that they couldn't have physically experienced. Now these stories are controversial. Science is cautious. Memory is fragile. But they challenge the materialist model, which says consciousness cannot exist without a functioning brain. And then there's quantum physics. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest that consciousness plays a role in collapsing reality. That reality doesn't crystallize until it's observed. This led some thinkers, like Eugene Winger and John von Neumann, to speculate that consciousness might be woven into the fabric of physics itself. Again, this is speculative, but it asks us to rethink where we draw the line between matter and mind. Could consciousness be like gravity, everywhere, subtle, but essential? Or is it something even more mysterious? Some traditions have long claimed it is. In Vedanta, consciousness, Brahman, is the foundation of everything, not a byproduct of biology, but the canvas on which existence is painted. Your mind, your thoughts, your body, are movements within it. You are not a brain having an experience. You are experience itself, appearing briefly in form. And in Tibetan Buddhism, there's the idea of the clear light, a pure formless awareness, that exists beyond birth and death. Meditation is the path to touching this awareness, letting go of identity, remembering what you are. Even Western mystics have described this. An awareness that is not yours, but is you. So, where does that leave us? Science cannot prove that consciousness survives the brain. It may never be able to. But the absence of proof is not the proof of absence. We are still in the dark, feeling around the edges of something enormous. So take a moment now. Turn your attention inward. What is it that's looking through your eyes? Hearing this voice, feeling this breath. Where does that awareness come from? Where does it go when you sleep? Why does it return? Could it be that it never left? Could it be that you are not in your brain, but your brain is in you? And if that's true, if consciousness is fundamental, not fragile, then death may not be the end. It may be a return, a dissolution into the field that holds everything. The drop returning to the ocean, the signal leaving the radio. And you were never just a body, never just a thought. You are the knowing behind it all, the open sky. So tonight, let this question be your lullaby. If the brain stops, does awareness stop? Or does it slip into something deeper, something vaster? You may not know the answer. But maybe you don't need to. Maybe it's enough to rest in the mystery, to let it cradle you like the dark, to float on the possibility that you are more than you think, more than neurons, more than time. You are not what passes, you are what watches. You decide to listen to this video. You chose where to lie down, how to arrange the blanket, what time to close your eyes. At least, it feels like you did. But what if you didn't? What if every choice you think you've made was already written, determined by causes stretching back long before you were born? What if free will is a beautiful illusion? For centuries, philosophers and scientists have debated this haunting question. Are we truly the authors of our actions, or just characters reading from a script written by physics, biology, and time? Let's begin with the basics. In a deterministic universe, one where every effect has a cause, and every action follows the laws of physics, your choices are just outcomes of previous events. The way a domino falls because another tipped it. If you trace back your decision to have tea instead of coffee, you'll find causes: your taste, your habits, the weather, your upbringing, even the arrangement of molecules in your brain. You didn't freely choose it, it was chosen by everything that led to that moment. The color of your kitchen, the mood you're in, the scent that triggered a memory, all of it, a chain. And you're part of the chain, not separate from it. Many neuroscientists now argue that the feeling of free will is just that, a feeling, a sensation created after the brain has already made the decision. In one famous experiment by Benjamin Libet in the 1980s, researchers discovered that brain activity predicting a decision happens milliseconds before people report becoming consciously aware of choosing it. In other words, the brain decides, then the mind takes credit. So what does that mean? Are you a puppet, a machine, a passenger? Let's pause. This idea can feel unsettling, even disturbing. We want to believe we have agency, that our lives are ours, shaped by our will. But ask yourself, have you ever really chosen your preferences? Did you choose to like the music you love? Did you choose the things that frighten you? Or the emotions that rise up when you see someone you care about? Did you choose your personality, your childhood, your body, your language? Every belief you hold was shaped by culture, family, experience, biology. And yet, you feel like a self, choosing, acting, doing. So maybe the illusion is necessary. Maybe it's not about whether free will is real, but about what that sense of authorship allows us to do. It helps us take responsibility. It gives us a narrative, a structure, a sense of meaning. If you believed everything was predetermined, how would you live? Would you become passive? Or would you find peace? Some thinkers, like the Stoics, believed that surrendering to the flow of fate was the key to tranquility. They didn't argue that free will was fake, but they did believe that resisting the universe only causes suffering. Their answer? Align with the river, flow with it. Others, like philosopher Sam Harris, argue that dropping the illusion of free will can be liberating. If people are not ultimately responsible for their thoughts and actions, if they're just the result of causes, they are not to be hated, envied, or blamed in the traditional sense. The person who wronged you didn't choose their biology, or their trauma, or the infinite chain that led to the moment they hurt you. Neither did you. And so, Forgiveness becomes possible. Compassion becomes logical. Humility becomes inevitable. You are not above anyone. You are not below. You are just happening, unfolding, like everything else. So where does that leave you? Are you nothing but a machine? Maybe not. There's a different perspective, one that blends science with something more mysterious. Some neuroscientists and philosophers propose that free will might not exist at the level we think it does. But that doesn't mean we are empty vessels. It may mean that will is not about choosing anything at all, but about being conscious of what arises. Awareness, witnessing. Imagine your thoughts, your actions, your feelings, as waves on an ocean. You didn't make the wave, but you can notice it. You can observe its rise and fall. You can recognize the patterns. And in that recognition, something shifts. A small space appears. And in that space, maybe something like freedom exists. Not freedom to control every wave, but freedom to surf them, to see them clearly, to respond with presence instead of reactivity. Maybe that is what freedom actually is. Not control but clarity. Not authorship but awareness. You're not the writer of your life, but maybe you're the reader, the one who turns the pages and feels every word. And maybe that's enough. As you settle deeper into stillness, feel this truth: you are not broken if you don't have free will. You are not hollow. You are still the experience, the dance, the process, like a song playing itself, beautifully, precisely, without needing to decide what note comes next. Let go of the pressure to choose correctly. Let go of the fear that you are not in charge, because whether or not you are steering the ship, you are still the journey, still the sky that holds the storm, still the silence that watches it all. You wake up in a room. The floor is solid. The light through the window warms your skin. A voice speaks your name. It all feels real. But what if none of it is? Not just the voice, not the room, but the world itself. What if the stars, the sky, the sound of your breathing, were all running on something else? Somewhere else? Simulated. Tonight we enter one of the most controversial, unsettling, and oddly comforting ideas in modern philosophy and science, that we might be living inside a simulation. The thought isn't new. Philosophers have asked similar questions for centuries. In the 17th century, René Descartes wondered whether everything he knew was a deception, a dream, a trick played by a powerful demon. His conclusion? I think therefore I am. Meaning the only thing he could be sure of was that he was having the experience. Everything else could be false. Fast forward to now, and that ancient worry has taken on a digital twist. In 2003, philosopher Nick Bostrom proposed a theory that shook the intellectual world. It goes like this. One day, advanced civilizations will have immense computing power. These civilizations might run simulations of past civilizations, entire worlds with conscious beings inside them. If that's true, then the number of simulated minds could vastly outnumber the original biological ones. So the conclusion? It's statistically more likely we're living in a simulation than in the real base reality. Think about that. Every bird, every planet, every person you've ever known might be bits of data, rendered in real time, programmed with memories. Even you. Let's take a moment. Look around the room you're in. It feels physical, concrete, but so does a dream, until you wake up. What is it that convinces you this is real? Touch, sight, memory? Emotion? A simulation could in theory reproduce them all. Right now we can already simulate entire environments in video games. We can replicate rain, wind, physics, artificial intelligence. That's with today's technology. Imagine where we'll be in 500 years, or 5,000. Entire virtual civilizations, digital consciousness, simulated evolution. It sounds like science fiction until you realize it's a logical step forward. And if we could do it, why wouldn't someone else have done it already? That's the heart of the simulation argument. Now, let's ask, what would it mean for you? Does it make your life less real, less meaningful? Some say yes, but others see it differently. If this is a simulation, it doesn't change the texture of your experiences. Joy still feels like joy. Love still moves you. Suffering still hurts. The code doesn't matter. The consciousness does. Just like a dream can feel beautiful, terrifying, or profound, so can this. A simulated life is still a lived life. Others say it's freeing. Because if this world is constructed, it means the limits we think are fixed might not be. Maybe reality can bend. Maybe we're not trapped by physics, but inside them, like players in a vast immersive game. Even Elon Musk has echoed this theory, suggesting there's a 1 in billions chance we're in base reality. So, if it's true, how could we tell? That's the puzzle. Some scientists have proposed we could look for glitches in the laws of physics, discrete units of space and time, anomalies in the cosmic background, signs of compression or resolution limits, like pixels in a high-res screen. Others argue that even the search is pointless. If the simulation is good enough, it could prevent us from knowing. Just like a character in a video game can never step outside its programmed world. You're limited by the rules. But here's another question. Why? Why would anyone run this simulation? Some say it could be for research, simulating ancestral civilizations to understand history. Others suggest entertainment, or perhaps a test, a way to observe choices, growth, ethics, consciousness. And if that's the case, then how you live still matters. Even more so, because in a simulated world, perhaps the only real thing is how you choose to respond to it. The decisions you make, the awareness you cultivate, the love you share. Some spiritual traditions come surprisingly close to this idea. Hindu cosmology speaks of Lila, the divine play, where reality is a performance by consciousness. Tibetan Buddhism suggests the world is a projection of mind. In both cases, what matters is not whether the world is real, but whether you wake up, not from the simulation, but within it. You are still the awareness, the observer, the experiencer, even if the walls are digital. So, as you drift deeper into sleep, let this thought rest softly. Maybe you are a simulation, but maybe you are the part that can't be simulated. The watcher, the player behind the avatar, the dreamer behind the dream. And if that's true, then maybe the point is not to escape this world, but to see it clearly, to be present, to be curious, to explore the code, and in doing so, find the consciousness within it. Because the line between reality and illusion may not be as sharp as we once believed. It may not even exist. Close your eyes and notice who is listening. Not the voice, not the thoughts, but the awareness behind them. That quiet space, that watcher. Now ask yourself, who is watching? We live our entire lives with a sense of self, a center of identity, a narrator of experience, a me that wants, that remembers, that decides. It feels so real, so constant. But what is it? Where is it? And is it as solid as we think? Tonight, we ask one of the most ancient and unsettling questions in philosophy. What is the self, if not the observer? Let's begin with something simple. You refer to yourself as I. But that I keeps changing. The person you were 5 years ago. Different tastes, different beliefs, perhaps even a different body, different fears, different hopes. Which one is the real you? Is it the one thinking now? The one thinking yesterday? The one you'll be tomorrow? Even the cells in your body are not the same. They're replaced over time. Your brain rewires itself. Your memories shift. So what is constant? Is there anything at all? The ancient Buddhist tradition would say, no. There is no enduring self. What we call I is just a bundle of thoughts, sensations, memories, desires, a pattern of activity, not a thing. It feels like a self, but that's an illusion. In Buddhism, this is called anatta, non-self. The idea that identity is not a substance, but a process, a flickering flame, not a solid stone. And science is beginning to agree. Neuroscientists have looked for the self in the brain, for a center of consciousness, but they haven't found one. Instead, they've found a network of processes. Emotions here, visual input there, language, memory, prediction, all dispersed. There is no single you in the skull, just a dance of functions, a coordination. So where does the feeling of I come from? Some scientists believe it's a byproduct of language. Your brain telling a story to make sense of your experience. A sort of narrative compression. You are not the narrator, you are the story being told. And like all good stories, you believe it. But consider this. Right now, thoughts are appearing. Sensation is happening. Sounds, images, memories, all coming and going. But something remains. Something aware of them. That awareness, that observer, has no name, no age, no shape. It doesn't change when the thought changes. It doesn't age when the body ages. It simply watches. Could that be the real self? Some traditions say yes. Advaita Vedanta, a branch of Indian philosophy, teaches that the true self is not the body or mind, but the Atman, the pure awareness behind all things, the observer of all experience. Not personal, but universal. You are not the character. You are the screen the movie plays on. You are not the thought. You are the space in which thought appears. You are not even the observer. You are the observing itself. Let that settle in. Feel the edges of your identity dissolve, not in a frightening way, but like mist in morning light. You are not who you think you are. You are what is aware of the one who thinks. Now take a breath. Feel the body rise and fall. Notice how sensations appear. Thoughts flicker. Memories knock. But through it all, the awareness is still here, still watching, untouched. You've never seen your own face, only reflections. You've never heard your own voice, only vibrations in the air. And you've never directly experienced you, only ideas about you. So maybe there is no self, in the way we imagine. Or maybe, there is only self, with a capital S, not individual, not separate, just the act of knowing, just this. This realization doesn't make life meaningless. In fact, it can be liberating. Without a fixed identity, you're free to change, free to grow, free to experience each moment, without the burden of protecting an illusion. You can still have a name, a body, a story, but you hold it all more lightly, like a dream you're gently waking up from. And maybe that's the point, because when we stop clinging to the story of me, something else opens up, a deeper stillness, a quieter joy, not based on doing, or achieving, or becoming, just being. Being the space in which life happens, being the witness of this dream. Let yourself rest there now. Let the thoughts drift by like leaves on a river. Let identity dissolve like a mist. You are not lost. You are what remains. And in that stillness, you might sense something sacred, not religious, not supernatural, just deeply, quietly real. The you that is no one, is also everyone. The self that watches, is the same self behind all eyes. And maybe, just maybe, when the illusion of separation fades, what's left is not emptiness, but connection. This is not something to believe, it's something to feel. And now, we gently leave this question behind, letting it echo as we drift deeper. Take a moment. Let your eyes fall on something in the room. A cup, a shadow, a quiet shape in the corner. Now ask yourself, was it really there before you looked at it? Not just as a concept or a memory, but as a physical, definite thing? This question seems strange, maybe even ridiculous. Of course it was there, but tonight, we pull at that thread, gently, carefully. We follow it through science, through philosophy, through the dreamscape of quantum mechanics, until the world we thought we knew begins to flicker. We begin with a mystery, one of the most famous in all of science. It's called the double-slit experiment. Imagine a screen, a particle gun, and two tiny slits. You fire particles, photons or electrons at the slits. You expect them to behave like bullets, landing in two distinct lines. But something else happens. When no one observes the particles directly, they behave like waves. They go through both slits at once. They interfere with themselves. They create a pattern on the screen, a delicate ripple, like water. But the moment you try to observe which slit the particle actually goes through, the wave collapses. The interference pattern disappears. The particle chooses a path, as if being watched, changed the outcome. The act of looking, of measuring, reshapes reality. This isn't science fiction, it's quantum physics, repeated, peer-reviewed, endlessly tested, and the implications are disturbing. Until observed, a particle exists in a state of probability, possibility, not this or that, but both. It becomes real only when measured. So what does that mean for the universe? Some physicists have suggested a staggering idea, that reality does not exist in any definite form until it is observed. Until something, looks. The universe is a haze of potential, a ghost, a maybe. This doesn't mean nothing exists. It means things don't resolve into concrete reality, until there is observation, consciousness, interaction, collapse of the wave function. You might ask, but what about the moon? Surely it doesn't vanish when I close my eyes. Einstein asked this too. Do you really believe the moon isn't there when you're not looking at it? And quantum mechanics shrugs. Maybe. Some theories argue the moon is always being observed, by photons, by other particles, by the universe itself. Others argue there must be some deeper hidden variable at work. But the truth is, no one knows, not fully. And in the silence of that uncertainty, we return to the question, what if nothing is real until you look at it? This isn't just about physics, it touches every part of life. If reality requires observation, then what role does your consciousness play? Is it a mirror, or a co-creator? Is the world revealing itself to you, or through you? In ancient traditions, this idea was not new. Tibetan Buddhists spoke of reality as a projection of mind. Vedantic philosophers saw the world as Maya, not illusion in the sense of not real, but illusion in the sense of not separate, not independent, always arising with the observer. The brain is not a camera, it's a sculptor. It doesn't just record what's there, it constructs experience from fragments, guesses, expectations. So when you see a tree, or a face, or a starry sky, you are not seeing an objective truth, you are seeing a collaboration between your mind and something out there, something that may or may not be real in the way we usually mean. And if that's true, it raises a quiet, beautiful possibility that maybe the world is more participatory than we thought, not a fixed object to be discovered, but a dance that unfolds as you pay attention. Think of dreams. In a dream, the world feels real until you wake up. Streets, people, entire lives, summoned by your mind. They seem to exist, you touch them, they speak, but they were always inside you. And what if waking life is not so different? Not fake, just constructed, emergent, dependent on attention, memory, interpretation. Your experience of reality is not a window, it's a canvas, painted moment by moment, with each act of looking. And what you choose to look at shapes what becomes real. Take a breath. Think about the parts of the world you haven't seen, the oceans you've never visited, the faces you've never met, the galaxies beyond your reach. You believe they're out there, and maybe they are, but to you, in this moment, they are just potentials, shadows, waiting. And maybe, just maybe, consciousness is not simply perceiving the universe. Maybe it is activating it. Not magic, not fantasy, just interdependence. There's a theory in physics called participatory anthropic principle. It suggests that observers are not just passive recorders of reality, but necessary for the universe to exist in its current form. In this view, the cosmos requires observation to crystallize. Reality needs eyes to be seen, and you are the eyes. Let that sink in. You are not a speck on a rock in a void. You are the doorway through which the universe becomes real. When you look, it is. So now, as we float into sleep, hold this gentle paradox. The world is not fake, and yet, it may not be truly there until you engage with it. What an exquisite responsibility, and what a mystery, because if everything is shaped by what you see, then what happens when you look inward? That's where we're going next. Have you ever looked up at the night sky and wondered, what shape are we inside of? We often imagine the universe as vast and open, stretching endlessly in every direction. But beneath this intuitive image lies a far more complicated question, one that scientists and philosophers have wrestled with for centuries. What is the shape of the universe? This isn't just a poetic question. It's deeply mathematical, physical, and existential. Because the shape of the universe determines not only how far space stretches but how space behaves, whether it's finite or infinite, whether it wraps back in on itself like a sphere, or extends like an endless plane, or maybe, more strangely, it has no shape at all in the way we understand it. To explore this idea, let's start small. Imagine you're an ant walking on the surface of a balloon. From your tiny perspective, it might seem like you're walking on a flat surface. But keep walking long enough, and you'll eventually return to where you started. You've been moving across a two-dimensional surface that curves in 3 dimensions. Now imagine that you are that ant, but in 3 dimensions instead of 2. What if our universe is like the surface of a balloon, but stretched into higher dimensional space? In such a case, you could travel in one direction for billions of years. If you waited long enough, you'd eventually end up back where you started. A curved space, without edges, without borders, and without a center. This idea, that the universe could be curved in on itself, is what physicists call a closed universe. In contrast, an open universe expands forever, like an infinite saddle, always stretching outward. And in between these two extremes is the possibility of a flat universe, one that extends endlessly in all directions, but doesn't curve back on itself. Current observations suggest that our universe is astonishingly close to flat, but what does that really mean? And can we even trust our tools to make such a judgment? We measure the shape of the universe through something called the cosmic microwave background, the leftover light from the Big Bang. Like ripples on a still pond, these traces of light carry clues about the underlying geometry of space itself, but we're limited. We can only observe a portion of the universe, what's called the observable universe. Beyond that, it's speculation, and so we're left with a haunting thought. The shape of the whole universe might be unknowable from inside it. We're like fish in a cosmic ocean, trying to determine the shape of the water. There are even theories, beautiful, strange theories, that the universe might be shaped like a donut. This isn't just whimsical thinking. In a toroidal universe, space could be finite but unbounded, like playing a video game where walking off the screen on the right makes you appear on the left. In a way, you'd be inside a kind of cosmic loop, endlessly wrapping around without borders. Light could loop through the cosmos, eventually letting us see ancient versions of our own galaxy from the backside. And what about dimensions? Could the shape of our universe be curled up in extra dimensions we can't perceive? According to string theory, our reality might contain up to 11 dimensions, most of which are tightly compacted and invisible to us. If that's true, then the shape of the universe may be far more alien than any sphere, plane, or torus we can visualize. It might not be shaped like anything we can comprehend. What's unsettling is how these ideas ripple into the rest of our understanding of reality. Because if we don't know the shape of the universe, how can we know what's beyond it? Or if there is a beyond, is there an outside to the universe at all? Or is that question meaningless, like asking what's north of the North Pole? This question, so vast and abstract, trickles down into something deeply personal. If the universe loops back on itself, then maybe time does too. Maybe everything that has happened is destined to happen again. Maybe you've lived this life already, many times. Take a moment to reflect on that. If space itself is curved, distorted, or multidimensional, then so is every step you've ever taken, every thought, every breath, moving through a geometry too vast to see. You are not moving through space, you are inside space, and its shape, whatever it may be, is the container for everything you've ever known. And so the next time you gaze at the stars, try to feel the invisible curves of the cosmos around you, not as an abstraction, but as a silent presence, folding and stretching reality in ways you'll never fully perceive. Because perhaps the strangest thing about the shape of the universe is that it might be shaping you too. You've felt it before, maybe while staring at the stars, or while lying awake in the dark. That strange feeling that the world might not be what it seems, that everything around you, this room, this body, this sky, could vanish if you stop believing in it. So let's ask the forbidden question. What if the universe doesn't exist? Not just the planets or the stars, not just the atoms and galaxies, but everything, all of it, gone. Or worse, never there to begin with. This might sound absurd. After all, we experience the world every day. We see it, hear it, touch it. Surely, it must be real. But how do you know that? Not just believe, not just assume. No, because what we call reality is always filtered through perception. And perception is built from signals. Light enters your eyes, vibrations enter your ears, pressure touches your skin. But none of that is the world itself. It's just data. Your brain takes that data and constructs a model, a simulation, a mental representation of what it thinks is out there. And you live inside that model, not the world itself. You don't see reality. You see your brain's best guess of it. Colors aren't out there. They're created in your mind. Sound, just air pressure translated by neurons. Even space and time, according to physics, may not be fundamental. They may emerge from something deeper, something beyond our senses entirely. So the world you know, the one you trust, the one you fall asleep in, may be more like a dream than you realize. This brings us to a radical thought experiment. It's called philosophical idealism, and it has ancient roots. The idea is simple and terrifying. The external world might not exist independently of your mind. That doesn't mean you're imagining things. It means reality may be mental, not material. That what we call matter is just a particular configuration of consciousness. In this view, there is no out there. There's only in here, and you are it. The philosopher George Berkeley said it plainly. To be is to be perceived. In his eyes, reality is like a shared dream. Things exist because they are experienced, by you, by others, or by a deeper universal mind. But here's where it gets strange. If nobody is looking at the moon, does it still exist? Einstein reportedly hated this idea. He believed in a solid, objective universe, one that keeps ticking whether or not anyone is watching. But quantum physics complicates that. In the famous double-slit experiment, particles behave differently when observed, as if the act of watching changes what is real, as if the universe waits for us to pay attention before deciding what to be. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest that consciousness plays a fundamental role in shaping reality, that without an observer, the universe is just a cloud of probabilities, nothing definite, nothing solid. Only when we look does the fog condense. So again we ask, what if the universe depends on observation to exist? Could everything, planets, laws of physics, time itself, emerge only when witnessed? Could we be participating in the creation of reality, simply by being aware of it? There's another possibility. What if this entire universe is a simulation? Not metaphorically, literally. Imagine a reality rendered by code, a vast intelligent machine, running a program so detailed, so flawless, that its inhabitants believe it's real. That's the simulation hypothesis, and it's been seriously considered by philosophers, physicists, and even tech billionaires. The argument is simple. If it's possible to simulate consciousness, and if advanced civilizations could run countless simulations, then statistically, it's far more likely that we're in one of those simulations than the original physical world. You wouldn't know. That's the point. The simulation would be perfect. Your memories, your senses, your entire life, generated by rules, algorithms, illusions of choice. And in that case, what is real? This isn't meant to disturb you. It's meant to liberate you. Because even if the universe is an illusion, it's a beautifully consistent one. It holds together, moment to moment. It offers mystery, meaning, and love. Whether dream or data, it's your reality. And perhaps that's all we need. So take a breath. Let go of the idea that reality must be physical, or external, or measurable. Instead, allow for something softer, more fluid, more intimate. Maybe the universe exists within you. Maybe you are not inside it. Maybe it's inside you. That's not solipsism. It's awareness. The understanding that what you experience is not the world itself, but a reflection, a translation, made from the raw material of mind. And just like a dream, it may be real enough to matter. Now, drift gently toward the next question. Because if the universe might be an illusion, then perhaps free will is too. And if you're not choosing your thoughts, who or what is? Think of your earliest memory. Maybe it's your mother's voice, a warm kitchen, the feeling of grass under your feet, the sound of laughter behind a closed door. Now ask yourself this. Did it really happen like that? Or, is your memory lying to you? Tonight, we drift deeper into uncertainty, into a place where even your past becomes soft and slippery. We ask a simple but dangerous question. Is memory a lie? Most of us believe our memories are like files in a cabinet, recorded, stored, and played back when needed. But the brain doesn't work that way. There is no cabinet, no recording, no button to rewind. What we call memory is something else entirely. Every time you remember something, your brain reassembles it, piece by piece, like a painter touching up an old canvas, adding strokes, smoothing edges, correcting shadows, and in the process, the memory changes. In fact, every time you recall a memory, you risk altering it, slightly, subtly, unknowingly. The memory becomes a memory of the last time you remembered it, not the original event itself. This phenomenon is known as reconsolidation, and it means that your most sacred memories may be the least reliable. Your brain isn't a librarian. It's a storyteller. But how deep does this go? In one study, researchers showed participants doctored photos, images of events that never happened. Within days, some people began to recall those events as real. They described them with detail, emotion, and certainty. Their brains believed the lie. It wasn't deception. It was construction. And that's the unsettling part. False memories don't feel false. They feel real, because feelings are part of the memory too. Emotion cements memory, but it also colors it. Two people can live through the same moment and remember it entirely differently. Not because one is lying, but because the brain doesn't just record events, it interprets them. Even traumatic memories, those burned deepest into our minds, can be distorted. Stress chemicals reshape how memories are stored. Details blur. Time warps. The event becomes more myth than fact. Your memory is a work of fiction that you mistake for autobiography. This realization leads to strange questions. If memory is a reconstruction, if it shifts each time we revisit it, then who are you really? Because your identity, your sense of self, is built on memory. You are your experiences, your past, your lessons. But if the past is uncertain, then so is the self. What if the version of you that you remember never quite existed? Take a moment. Let that idea settle. Let it wash over you like fog. Think of how many memories are missing entirely. Years vanish. Conversations are lost. Whole friendships reduced to a few fading scenes. Even now, your brain is forgetting, pruning, trimming, discarding. You forget more than you ever remember. And yet, you still feel like a continuous self. How? The brain fills in the gaps. It tells a coherent story, even when there are holes. That's part of its brilliance, and its danger. Because memory isn't there to give us truth. It's there to help us survive. If remembering something slightly wrong makes us feel safe, or sane, or strong, the brain allows it. It edits, it erases, it comforts, and sometimes it betrays. Consider this. There are people who remember everything. They have a condition called highly superior autobiographical memory. They can tell you what day of the week February 12, 1997 was, what they wore, what they ate, what the weather was, and yet, they suffer. Their memories don't fade. Every regret, every embarrassment, every moment of pain stays vivid, like reliving your worst day forever. They can't forget, and it haunts them. So maybe forgetting is a gift. Maybe memory needs to lie a little, so we can keep going. Still, the question lingers. If memory can deceive us, can we trust anything we know about ourselves? Can we trust our relationships, our histories, our traumas, our triumphs? And if not, what is real? Some philosophers argue that memory is not about the past at all, but about the future. It's not a record, it's a tool, a way to imagine what might come next, to simulate outcomes, to protect us, to guide us. In that view, the past is a canvas we repaint, so we can step forward. The truth of the memory matters less than its usefulness. But then, what happens when memory turns against us? In cases of dementia or Alzheimer's, memory disintegrates, slowly, then all at once. People forget their names, their loved ones, their own faces. The timeline collapses, and as memory fades, so does the self. So we return to the same eerie question. If memory can vanish, what are we without it? Not nothing, just something different. Maybe what remains is a deeper awareness, a kind of presence beyond time and narrative, a stillness beneath the noise of remembered life. Take a breath. Let the idea soften that your past may not be real in the way you thought. But that doesn't make you empty. It makes you fluid, ever-changing, alive. Your memories may be illusions, but they're your illusions. They shaped you, they held you, they carried you here. And now, as we float forward into the next question, we leave the mind behind for a moment and gaze upward. Because if your memories are a dream, then maybe the stars are too. Time slips through your fingers, like sand. Always moving, always vanishing. And yet we live by it. We measure it. We fear it. We chase it. We lose it. But here's the forbidden question. What if time isn't real? At least, not in the way we think. To us, time feels like a line, a before and an after, a birth and a death, a start and an end. We remember the past, we anticipate the future, and we stand, always in between. But physics doesn't see it that way. In Einstein's theory of relativity, time is not an independent flowing river. It's part of a fabric woven together with space. Time and space are one thing, space-time. And here's the strange part. The way you experience time depends on how fast you're moving, and how close you are to gravity. Clocks tick slower on airplanes than they do on the ground. Time literally stretches and bends. GPS satellites have to account for these warps in time just to give you accurate directions. This isn't science fiction. It's real, proven, measured. Time is not absolute, it's relative. So, if time isn't universal, if it's malleable, what does that say about our experience of it? Some physicists take this even further. There's a concept known as the block universe, a model where past, present, and future all exist simultaneously. Imagine the universe as a loaf of bread. Each slice is a moment in time. To us it feels like we're moving through the loaf, one slice at a time. But in reality, all slices already exist. There is no now. It's just the slice you happen to be in. Under this view, the future already exists. So does the past. Your entire life, every thought, every breath, every heartbeat, may already be laid out in space-time. You're just traveling through the coordinates. But if that's true, then change is an illusion. Becoming is an illusion. Even death may not be the end, just another coordinate in the loaf. Let that idea settle. Let it stretch your sense of self. If time isn't flowing, if it's just a landscape, then what does it mean to wait, or to regret, or to hope? Those words only make sense in a universe where time moves. But what if we're the ones moving? The philosopher J.M.E. McTaggart took it further. He argued, over a century ago, that time itself is a contradiction, that we only imagine its passage because of how our minds structure experience. According to him, there is no such thing as becoming, only being. And what we call the passage of time is just the unfolding of our awareness. Your brain creates a sense of now by stitching memories and expectations together. But the now you live in is always built from the past. It's a reconstruction, like an echo in a cave you think is still singing. Even neuroscience supports this. When you hear a sound or see an image, there's a tiny delay, just milliseconds. But your brain waits, collects the data, and edits your perception so everything appears to be happening now. What you call the present is already slightly in the past. It's a carefully orchestrated hallucination of simultaneity. And so, we return to the unsettling thought. Time may not exist outside of our minds. It may be a scaffolding we impose on experience, an interpretive lens, not a fundamental truth. This doesn't mean nothing matters. On the contrary, it might mean everything matters more. If all moments already exist, then every moment is eternal. Every kindness, every sorrow, every breath, recorded forever in the architecture of space-time. Never lost, never erased. That hug you shared years ago, it still exists in some slice of the loaf. That person you lost, that child you once were, that decision you made, and remade in your head 1,000 times. All of it may still be there, in the structure of the universe. Fixed, timeless. Take a breath with that. If time is an illusion, then endings are illusions too, and beginnings. There is only being. No more running out of time. No more waiting for the right moment. You're already in it. You always were. Now, let this thought dissolve gently. Let go of the ticking clock in your head. Let the illusion soften. Let the story blur. And now, drift with us into the next question. If time is not what we think it is, then what about memory? Because if all moments exist, and we can only visit some of them, then what is memory actually doing? Is it a record, a reconstruction, a portal, or a lie? Picture this. A flashlight trying to shine light on itself, a camera trying to photograph its own lens, a mirror reflecting itself into nothing. This is the paradox of self-awareness. Tonight, we explore a strange and recursive question. Can the brain truly know itself? At first, it seems obvious. We think, we feel, we observe our thoughts. We reflect on our emotions. Surely, this is the brain examining itself. But dig deeper, and the simplicity begins to unravel. Your brain is the most complex structure known to science. More intricate than any galaxy, more dynamic than any system we've ever built. It contains approximately 86 billion neurons, each connected to thousands of others. Patterns of electrical signals create the illusion of continuity, of experience, of you. But here's the dilemma. The brain is not looking at itself from the outside. It's using itself to observe itself. It's both the microscope and the specimen. Think of a knife trying to cut itself. It moves, it sharpens, it senses. but it can never fully dissect itself without ceasing to be what it is. The closer it gets to the source, the blurrier things become. Neuroscience has made incredible progress in understanding how the brain works. We can map regions responsible for vision, memory, language. We can scan patterns of activity, and even predict decisions a few seconds before we consciously make them. But knowing how the brain works isn't the same as knowing what it is like to be a brain. Subjective experience, the feeling of being you, is a mystery science hasn't cracked, and perhaps never will. This is known as the hard problem of consciousness. Coined by philosopher David Chalmers, the hard problem asks, why do physical processes in the brain lead to a subjective experience at all? A computer processes data. A robot can sense light or temperature, but neither seems to feel anything. You do. Why? No one knows. Some theories suggest that consciousness is an emergent property, something that appears when enough complexity arises. Others suggest it's fundamental to the universe, like time or space. Still others propose that the brain is simply not equipped to solve this puzzle, because it would be like asking a book to read itself. This is more than academic. It has deep, strange implications for identity. If your brain is a system running a self-model, and if that model is inherently incomplete, then your sense of self is not the whole truth. It's a simplification, a useful illusion. The brain represents only parts of itself in ways it can manage. It's as if your mind is standing in front of a locked door, holding a mirror, trying to glimpse what's behind. You see fragments, glimmers, shadows, but never the whole thing, and yet, something in you still tries. Meditation, for example, is one practice that turns the mind inward, observing thoughts as they rise and fall, without judgment. Over time, people report strange effects: the loss of the inner narrator, a sense of merging with experience, a shift from I think to simply thoughts arise. What happens when the mind stops identifying with the self it built? And here's where things get truly eerie. There are rare neurological conditions, like Cotard's delusion, in which people report feeling as if they do not exist. The self vanishes, but the machinery continues. Thoughts without ownership, perception without perspective. In dreams too, you might become someone else, or no one at all. The dreamer forgets they are dreaming, then, sometimes, remembers. What changes in that moment? The line between the observer and the observed blurs. If your brain can simulate entire worlds while you sleep, filled with people, places, emotions, then when you're awake, how do you know you've reached the real world? It brings us to a philosophical loop that goes back to the ancient Greeks. Know thyself, the oracle at Delphi said. But what if the self you're trying to know is only a mask? Modern cognitive science suggests that your conscious mind is not the CEO of the brain, but more like its press secretary. It explains decisions after they happen. It makes sense of what the deeper processes have already done. You are the story the brain tells itself, about itself. And yet, within that story, there's beauty, mystery, reflection. You may never grasp the whole, just as an eye cannot fully see itself. But perhaps that's not the point. Perhaps the value lies in the attempt, in the slow spiraling dance of self-exploration, in the mirror you hold up to your own mind, even if it never shows you everything. So take a moment now. Sit in the quiet with this thought. You are a self made of thoughts, trying to understand the self that made them. And that's not a failure. That's the very essence of being conscious, a mind aware of itself, even if only in ripples and whispers. As we drift further into the fog of deep questions, let us follow this path one step further, not just into self-awareness, but into freedom. We often think of hallucinations as glitches, moments of mental error. But what if hallucination isn't the exception? What if it's the rule? This brings us to a strange and unsettling idea suggested by modern neuroscience. You are always hallucinating, just usually in agreement with other people. This is the foundation of the controlled hallucination theory of consciousness. It suggests that your brain isn't passively receiving the world, it's actively predicting it. Constantly. Relentlessly. Your senses, sight, sound, touch, don't feed you direct information. They send scraps of noisy data. The brain fills in the rest. It constructs reality from guesses, and most of the time, it gets it right. That's what makes it controlled. But every now and then, the guess is off. The system slips, and the hallucination becomes obvious. You've seen this before. Ever thought you heard your name in a crowd? only to realize no one was calling you. That's your auditory cortex predicting, jumping to conclusions. Ever reached for your phone because you felt it vibrate, and nothing was there? A phantom signal in your soma-to-sensory map. The hallucination doesn't have to be dramatic to be real, and it doesn't have to be wrong to be artificial. According to neuroscientist Anil Seth, we don't passively perceive the world, we actively generate it. Your brain is a prediction machine. It builds a model of what's probably out there, then updates that model based on new data. Vision is not like a camera. It's more like a canvas painted by expectation. This idea has roots going back decades, even centuries, but only recently has science begun to measure it. Experiments with virtual reality and brain imaging show that what we see in the world is often a blend of what we expect and what we sense. In one study, people were shown a blurry image of a cat, but were primed to expect a dog. Many of them reported seeing a dog. Their visual cortex generated what their mind believed should be there. In other words, your expectations can shape your experience so completely that your brain will edit the evidence to match. Now pause for a moment and consider the consequences. If everything you experience is constructed in your head, if the chair you sit in, the voice you hear, the stars you see, all of it is part of a complex simulation being run behind your eyes, then what is the difference between imagination and perception? What we call reality may just be the hallucination we agree upon. Shared hallucinations, stabilized by language, reinforced by habit, and what we call madness, perhaps just a hallucination that no one else shares. This theory of perception isn't limited to vision. It applies to your sense of self as well. You feel like you are a coherent, continuous person, one mind, one story, one identity. But your sense of self too is a model, a narrative your brain generates to make sense of its thoughts, a character it plays, just convincingly enough, so the story can keep going. Your memories, selective and rewritten, your decisions, often made before you're even aware of them. The you believe in may just be another controlled hallucination, not in a sinister way, but in a beautifully strange biological way. Now you might wonder, if everything is a hallucination, then how do we distinguish real from unreal? The answer is, we don't. Not perfectly. What we have instead is calibration, feedback loops. We ask others if they see the same thing. We test predictions against outcomes, and when our models fail, when the hallucination breaks, we adjust. That's science. That's learning. That's adaptation. But that's also why the idea is so disquieting. It means we can never step outside the dream. We're always seeing from inside it. The best we can do is keep refining the dream so it stays useful, or at least, stable. And still, the dream can falter. In brain disorders like schizophrenia, or under psychedelics, or even during deep meditation, people report radical shifts in perception. Some feel as if the self dissolves. Others experience time as a loop, or the body as transparent. These may sound like errors, but perhaps they are moments when the brain briefly lets go of the hallucination's frame. Glitches in the matrix. Take another breath. Let that idea settle. You're not broken. You're just interpreting. Your world is a canvas stretched across the scaffolding of your expectations. You are dreaming. Even now, just in coordination with others. And in the quiet of the night, as the noise of daily input fades, you may begin to hear the hum of the predictive machine behind your eyes. But don't be afraid of the dream. It's not a deception. It's a dance, one your brain has spent a lifetime mastering. A controlled hallucination not to escape from, but to understand. And so, as we continue drifting deeper into questions most minds are trained to avoid, let's ask something even stranger. Can the brain ever truly know itself? Consider this. Everything you know, everything you've ever experienced, the colors of the sky, the sound of your name, the feeling of warmth or pain, is filtered through one thing, your mind. But what if your mind is not showing you reality, but only an interpretation of it? You reach out and touch a surface. It feels smooth, cold, maybe hard. But what you're actually touching are electrons repelling other electrons. There's no real contact happening. Only the illusion of solidity created by force fields. Your brain fills in the rest. And so we begin with a question that seems innocent on the surface, but quickly dissolves into something much more unsettling. What is reality? Really, from the moment we're born, we begin building a mental model of the world. We learn to associate light with vision, sound with presence, hunger with need. But none of these experiences give us direct access to the true nature of what lies outside us. Instead, what we perceive is a kind of simulation running inside our brains, one tailored by evolution to help us survive, not necessarily to uncover truth. Imagine you're wearing a headset, a hyper-advanced virtual reality device, but you've worn it since birth. You've never taken it off. Everything you've ever seen was filtered through it. Would you even know it wasn't real? This is essentially what your senses do. Your eyes don't show you reality. They detect light bouncing off objects, and your brain turns that data into an image. Your ears don't capture sound, but vibrations in the air. Your skin feels pressure, temperature, but only through nerve endings. Everything is mediated. Everything is interpreted. So how can we be sure that what we're experiencing is reality, and not just a model of it? Philosophers have grappled with this for centuries. Descartes famously doubted everything, except the fact that he was doubting. I think therefore I am, he said. But even that simple phrase hides a disturbing question. If I only know my own thoughts, how can I be certain of anything else at all? Modern neuroscience hasn't made the question easier. In fact, it's made it even more complicated. Take visual illusions for example. You've probably seen them. The ones where two lines of equal length appear different because of how they're framed, or where a still image seems to be moving. These illusions aren't just tricks. They're evidence that your brain is constantly guessing, filling in gaps, making assumptions, and sometimes, those guesses are wrong. Even time, something we treat as absolute, can be warped by perception. In moments of fear or awe, time seems to slow. In boredom it drags. In excitement it disappears. Is time really something we measure externally? Or is it a subjective state produced by the mind? Now consider this. If what you perceive is a simulation, crafted moment by neurons firing in your brain, then reality may never actually reach you. You might be interacting only with your version of reality, not the thing itself. The philosopher Immanuel Kant called this the noumenon, the thing in itself. According to Kant, we can never know the noumenon directly. We can only know phenomena, how things appear to us. In other words, reality is always cloaked in perception, always just out of reach. This isn't just abstract theory. It has real implications. If we can't know reality directly, then how do we define what's true? If your experience of red isn't the same as mine, how do we agree on what red even is? If your idea of love, pain, justice or beauty is constructed from your inner world, how do we ever truly connect? And yet this is what makes reality so paradoxical. It feels undeniable, solid, immediate, but the closer we look, the more it slips through our fingers, like water or smoke. Some physicists have taken this even further. They suggest that at the quantum level, particles don't even exist in a specific state until observed, until measured. In that view, reality itself is not just hidden from us. It may actually depend on us to take shape. So now the question deepens. Is reality something that exists independently of observation? Or is it something that arises because we are here to witness it? If the tree falls in the forest and no one is there to hear it, does it make a sound? You've heard the riddle, but what if we expand it? If no one is there to observe the universe, does it exist at all? Take a moment to reflect on this. If your mind can be tricked, if your senses are limited, if your experience is a guess, a simulation, a story told by neurons, then what is real? Perhaps there's no clear answer. Or perhaps, the real question is not what reality is, but whether we were ever meant to know. As we drift deeper into tonight's journey, keep this thought close. The world around you may not be what it seems, and neither may you.